Am I the asshole for telling my daughter that she's the reason why nobody likes her? I, a 40-year-old, had my first daughter. I'll call her Sandra. She's 20 years old, with my boyfriend George, who is now 50 years old. When Sandra was 5, I realized that George was abusive, so I broke up with him. He didn't have an interest in maintaining a relationship with Sandra so I effectively became a single mother and raised Sandra on my own for the next 6 years. Then, when Sandra was 11 and I was 31, I met a man I'll call Frank, who was 33. We got married a year later and started having children, Sandra's step-siblings, the year after that. Now I am 40, Frank is 42, Sandra's 20. I have a son who I'll call Francis who's 7 years old, twins named Philip and Julia who are 5 years old, and a daughter named Stacy who's 3 years old. Since Francis was born, Sandra's been complaining to me about how she feels pushed to the side. For the first few months of his life, I can admit that she was somewhat pushed to the side, but that was because he was a baby with health complications and she was a 13-year-old who required a lot less intensive attention. Then, when Francis's health got better, I was able to split my time more evenly between the two, but it was never enough for Sandra. We've tried family therapy, but Sandra refused to talk. I've tried doing things alone with Sandra, but she says she's jealous of her half-siblings who have 2 parents while she only has 1, and, even then, my time is divided. I told her I'm sorry about her jealousy, but Frank's a nice man, and the only reason why she feels disconnected from him is because she's being bratty about the changes. Sandra has done nothing but complain about how the younger children are getting more attention than her, and I'm not entertaining that dialogue anymore. Since Philip and Julia were born, I've been telling her that it's her own fault she's not agreeable enough for anybody to spend any time with her, and she's had 6 years alone with me, that should be enough. Sandra responded by getting more and more withdrawn. She was awarded a full scholarship to college and is now 2 years into it. Since she started college she's barely come home, and when she does interact with the family, she's been sullen and rude. I did my best as a mother. I'm sorry she didn't like it. I've still got a family who appreciates me, after all, so I told her that she's the problem because everybody else can get along just fine. But I figured that I would check with all of you, to maybe understand her perspective better. She's told me about this part of Reddit and how it's good for questions. So am I the asshole? Edit. When I say that Sandra had 6 years with me, I meant from the ages of 6 to 11. I was not including the ages of 0 to 5 when she was alone with George and I. Edit 2. Half-siblings I know. I'm sorry. You are the asshole. You did your best to spin this post and it still comes off that you replaced your daughter with your new family and don't respect her feelings at all. You are the asshole. I'm sorry but that's just the case. Your daughter has told you that she's feeling pushed to the side, and jealous, because she only had 1 parent. And your only reaction, in the end, towards your daughter whom was left behind by her father is to leave her behind. And you wonder why she's bitter? Do everyone a favor and apologize to your daughter. However, I'm not sure this relationship can be saved. If it can, it'll take a lot of efforts from all parties involved. You are the asshole for abandoning your first child to make your new family. And how the hell do you not know that your other kids are her half-siblings, not step-siblings? This can't be real. Am I the asshole for not defending my mom when my wife insulted her to our kids? My dad is a huge asshole. My mom comes off as very sweet, but she chooses to stay with him. She is not financially dependent or afraid of him. It took me a while to see it, but I guess she isn't that great either, because if she was, she sure as hell wouldn't be with him. My father promised us all a family vacation in February. My siblings and I decided on Turks and Caicos and have been planning ever since. Needless to say, my kids were excited. Note: I don't truly think my dad gets what a big deal it is, as he is always on vacation. My dad does not like my wife, never has, and over Christmas he became irate over what we got my mom for Christmas and how Mill got a lot more from us. He uninvited us from the trip and berated us. Our kids devastated, but I don't think he ever even considers them. My mom came over today to drop off a gift that arrived late for our son. The kids are very upset about the trip and didn't want to see her. She claimed she felt bad and said she would talk to him. For the kids, my daughter told my son that maybe it would work because my mom is nice even if my dad isn't. My wife was annoyed by this and corrected our daughter. She said my mom isn't nice. She is weak and selfish, and nice people don't stay married to not nice people, and if you really want to be nice you have to put the right thing before what makes you happy. My mom was clearly shocked. She turned to me and asked if I was really going to let her treat her like that. I shrugged and said she was right. My mom told me to fuck off and left. We are still uninvited from the trip, banned from their house, and my dad sent us a nasty message and says we'll never get anything from him again. Please explain how accepting a free vacation from a huge asshole makes you any different than the woman who stays with said asshole. You are the asshole, as is your wife. And huge hypocrites as well. My dad is a huge asshole. But not such a huge asshole that you'd turn down a trip with him, right? She is weak and selfish, and nice people don't stay married to not nice people, and if you really want to be nice you have to put the right thing before what makes you happy. How incredibly ironic that your wife would say this, and you'd support her. So it's weak and selfish for your mother to remain in a marriage to a not nice person. But it's perfectly fine for you and your family to go on vacation with that same not nice person. Am I the asshole for not allowing my brother and his wife to take wedding pictures on my wedding? Throwaway because brother knows my account. He doesn't browse this subreddit though. Also, excuse me for any grammar mistakes, English is not my first language. I'm gonna write the names and ages first to make it easy to understand. Husband and I 34, 35. Brother, Jack, and Sil, Hannah, 22, 24. And #X200B. My husband and I recently got married. About a week before the event, Jack and Hannah asked if they could take their wedding pictures as well after our ceremony and during the reception. I asked if they meant when everything was over, but they clarified that they wanted people in the pictures. The reason for their request was that they eloped, so they didn't get to have the whole wedding experience and they wanted the pictures to show their future kids and hang on their future home. I can understand why they would want that. So I told them that they could take pictures but either before the events or after the guests had left. That's because they planned to come dressed in wedding attire and I didn't want them to be wearing that during the wedding. They tried to convince me to change my mind but I stood my ground with when they could take the pictures and they ended up saying that they didn't want to take them anymore. I thought nothing of it and just carried on with my life. Until, the day of the wedding they arrived with a photographer and Hannah was wearing a long white dress. The guests had already arrived, so I told my mo to please tell them to change clothes. Hannah and Jack refused so the groomsmen kicked them out. After the wedding, my mother asked where they were and I told her. She agreed that they shouldn't have done it but that I could have let it slide since they were already here. She also said that everyone who attended the wedding knew who the couple was, so it's not like they would have caused any confusion. I'm beginning to feel bad because they just wanted to have nice memories and pictures to show in the future and I ruined it for them. My husband and Mo say that I did nothing wrong but I feel like they're biased. And #X200B. Am I the asshole? If I am, I'll apologize and offer to pay them back for the photographer. Not the asshole. You offered them way more than I would have, yet they decided to try and screw you over. Don't worry about it and congrats on your wedding. Not the asshole. They eloped, so they didn't get to have actively chose to forego the whole wedding experience. FTFY. Not the asshole. You were more than generous in offering them the chance to take photos before or after the wedding. The level of entitlement they have to even ask to take photos in their wedding outfits during your wedding celebration is astounding. If you elope, surely you are actively choosing to not partake in that side of things anyway? Good on you for standing your ground op. She agreed that they shouldn't have done it but that I could have let it slide since they were already here. No? You explicitly told them no. She showed up to your wedding in a wedding dress. You were right to kick them out. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for kicking my sister out and excluding my husband after they made our 2-year-old cry? My sister is planning to divorce her husband soon and has been asking my husband for help with sorting out her finances and restarting her career so that she can support herself and her children. I was having a shower so my husband was watching our son while they talked. My son has a lot of energy and he loves to run around and play, which is what he was doing. I assume he was distracting them because my sister told him to stop. According to my husband, he got upset but he didn't stop and kept running around. After some time had passed, my sister was angry and she snapped at him to sit down. Again, he never listened and I walked in as my husband told him that was enough in a loud, angry voice. My husband never talks to our son like that, so he got scared and started crying. My husband did feel bad and tried to comfort him but he wouldn't let him and came to me. I asked my husband what happened and I was angry at both of them, but especially at my husband for speaking to our son how he did when he was only playing like he normally does. I told my sister it was best she leaves even though they hadn't finished their conversation and they both tried to get me to let her stay. I wouldn't and she eventually left. Usually if my husband is free, he'll put him to bed, but because our son was still upset with him I wouldn't let him help as him being there was only upsetting him more. My husband looks forward to putting him to bed, so he told me not to be like that, but I wouldn't budge, so now he's mad at me for excluding him. Am I the asshole? You are the asshole, and I say this as a dad myself. Your son is at an age where he tests boundaries and sees how far he can go before running into said boundaries. If you're afraid of making him cry at that age because someone told him, no, or, stop, there's a good chance he'll grow up to be an unbearable person. You are the asshole. Your son was asked multiple times to settle down, and did not. Should dad have raised his voice that much? Maybe not. But if you side with your son when he's just been disciplined, against the disciplining parent, and then demonstrate to your toddler how to hold a grudge and manipulate the situation, you're going to have some tough teenage years ahead of you when he dishes back at you everything you're teaching him to serve. Dad should have gotten the opportunity to participate after.